Be a short one today at 5:30 here on the East Coast. And thank you to join me in this You Change the World, our weekly talk, sometimes with guests, sometimes me alone, but definitely always trying to be factual, try to share some stories, interesting stories that we can have on the topics that we want to address. And managing change is our topic because this is what comes up, of course, every day. In the change, there is, of course, a portion of uncertainty, and uncertainty is definitely what's going on these days. And I just want to put this in the right perspective. But before I do that, I would like to first thank you for joining today. Thank you for always joining, for those who join each time we meet here. And a little housekeeping to again ask everybody who are watching YouTube to subscribe. And if you watch YouTube later, because this is recording on all the channels, please to subscribe on YouTube. This is the only way, really the only way, we can ensure good content, more guests, and invest more time and resources to really grow this program and make it more popular, more impactful. The other thing I also want to mention is that the podcast is not yet available on the Apple Store, but it is a Spotify podcast, so you can find it there. The other place where you can find it is Facebook, Instagram, because they have live programs over there, and LinkedIn, where we are looking at mostly, as far as I'm concerned. And do I miss something here? I think it's it. Yeah, I think that's it. You can use the chat, of course, and ask in here any questions. If you want to join me in the studio to send me an email, you can find the message line on the website, www.andrepolitzer.com. So that's the housekeeping, and I will stop here for that and get into the topic. The topic today that I think is a leadership responsibility and accountability is to really coach people that you influence, people that you work with, in adapting themselves to change. Because we need not only to cope with innovation, but structurally cope with new people, new kind of demands and expectations. If I take the example that everybody talks about these days, and that's the example of Twitter, new leader, new ownership, new expectations. I remember seeing an interview of Elon Musk when he said to an interviewer that his top criteria for being successful in his company, Tesla, is to be an innovator, to have an innovative mind. That someone who would not be an innovative, would not have an innovative mind would be eliminated. It looks like he's specialized in this area of being able, as a good leader should be, to hire, but also to fire. But as much as everybody's talking about him, what surprised me about him mostly, is that his leadership is very bold and very clear. It transpires a very natural aspect of himself, where you see the man, I think, authentically, is really who he is for what you see. And when he's in public to this extent, when he's really openly public like he is, in every aspect that he's choosing, even in the biggest conflict type of situation, conflicting situation, he shows himself calm, he shows himself thoughtful, and whatever he says or whatever he takes, he says, it's my opinion. You don't need to agree with me. And but this is how, if I'm the stakeholder, if I'm the decision maker, if it's my house or in my family, or if it's my business and I own it, okay, I'm entitled to make that decision. So you comply with it, or you agree or disagree with it. This is the decision I made. And he will go one step further to explain why he made that decision. But all in all, uh, when we talk about managing change, I take his example as an approach of charisma, where the persona that he has is very natural, very authentic, and I think it's intentional. And this is why It works so well for him and for other people that work with him or relate with to him. So you can like the guy, you can hate the guy. When someone is bold, has a very strong brand, and is influential like he is, obviously will have also enemies. And to whatever the reason is, for whatever the reason is that you will have enemies, right? Um, they not necessarily personal to him. They are influenced by other things, by other factors. If he's the initiator and the one who expects you to innovate or to cope with innovation, then the message is clear. You want to stay here. You want to be part of this, company and a player. So don't be the victim and play with me. And what I need for you to do is to take all the resources that you have and all the talent that you have and be an innovator. Invest in this company with your innovation. Don't restrict yourself, just open up and understand what is expected of you. And this is, in fact, really what coping with change is. From the standpoint of leading it, it's to convey the message properly, it's to be effective in your communication, and it's to be, of course, convincing. But from the standpoint of those who have execute innovation or are part of the organization and look up to a leader, it's about complying, it's about alignment, and it's about acceptance. It's about sometimes suppressing your own limits because you are shy about it or because you think you're not an innovator or you're not comfortable with change. The truth is, those who are not comfortable with change need to reflect on that. It's not that you're right or wrong. It's about just the times that we're living. And I would coach you about all these capabilities that you have, all the flexibility that you have, and the resources that you have yourself that you might be ignoring, and just explore with a real good self reflection about what change means to you. There is also these situations where you're near retirement, for example, where you would say, why should I change? I'm a few months, a few years away from retirement. Why should I change now? I saw that in different situations. Um, and there is no judgment. There is nothing that qualifies the person because that person makes that choice. The most importantly is, like everything I'm trying to say for the last few weeks, is that we have freedom of choice. We make that choice. If you are compliant with a change and you are accepting that change, you might have to need some training. You might have to need a mentor. You might have to need even a manual, and then you can just move forward. I will tell you my own limitation about change is when I go to a new version of the iPhone or the new version of the Mac, and I'm going to see all kind of new ways to see a screen or things that the way they work, and it's going to be upsetting to me because I was not notified, and I have to now all of a sudden have to change the whole way to understand the data or to look at a screen or to find my emails. This is very frustrating. That's change. That's a sudden thing. No notification, just a new version, and they made the decisions for me. So I hate to be dependent on this kind of thing. And then when I bring myself back to one thing, I say, well, if they made those changes, maybe there is a good reason for it. Maybe there's something in the graphic design or in the functionality that will make it better. So it takes some humility. It takes some humility and some curiosity. And also, as I said, suppressing your own little ego or a little expectation and say, let me see what it means. Let me be curious about this. Let me ask questions and see if I have a place here, if there is a reason for me to make that effort, that extra effort of training myself or adapting myself to that new technology. So this is what managing change can mean to many. And in the style of leadership, I go back to my example of Elon Musk, like so many people take his example. It could be seen as a role model of influence and inspiring influence, For those who are really admiring his level of creativity, ingenuity, and say, well, he's the one who really came up with the first electric car. And he's definitely the one who's, shooting rockets there in the space and from a private entity, from a private company. It's not the NASA, it's him and his vision of it. So to see here an initiator, an enabler, a leader that is bringing so much innovation is impressive. And in the same times, to watch how he's leading people and how he sets expectations is also something to watch. Now, after that, there is different ways he's doing things that can be seen as more radical or impatient in the pace of things. But the truth is, this is the times that we're living in. Change happens fast, and we need to adapt to that pace, whoever we are, whatever the age is, and at whichever stage of our career we are, there is always a level of change we can tolerate or we have to adapt to. So assess these kind of things. This is the thing that I want to convey. Assessing your adaptability and assessing that you are capable, you have the potential of making that next step or filling the gap that you are feeling at this point. Then the comfort level is something to assess as well and measure. Now, if it's about you, you can do this right. If you're about a team and people that work for you, then you need to have a lot of empathy and compassion to give everybody the space and the time to adapt. Now, of course, there is limits to all of that. You cannot wait forever, and you cannot give an unlimited space for people to adapt to change. But you can be a coach, you can be an enabler, you can be someone inspiring, and getting things done from inspiration more than from conviction or from you know I'm trying to find a word here, but I'm not finding it. Conviction, that's what I'm trying to say. Being the salesman from pitching or anything like that, it all depends on the relationship you have with the person you try to convince, right? It's interesting that one of the main factor of gap in terms of skills and in terms of attraction of a leader about developing a skill is the difficulty that everybody has to manage conflict. That's another topic we can do another time. But I want to bring this conflict management for just 1 second, because when it comes to managing change, it creates conflicts. And how to handle that is not to avoid it, but it's to embrace it. Because all you can do, and you know that I'm a mediator and I mediate a couple of times a week, different difficult cases of divorce or business conflicts. Mediation is a good place to be. My role is to make sure that they agree and walk away from the mediation with a feeling that they have a fair deal. That's my goal when I'm a mediator. Imagine about innovation and change as a leader, that I also would have the goal of helping you and supporting you as your leader, that if you have resistance to change, if this is something that scares you, my role is to enjoy the relationship I have with you, number one, know you better if I don't, and see how, from what angle I can bring that change so that it really is comfortable for you, because you underestimated your adaptability to it, or because you simply um, shy about taking this change into your daily routine or into your as a way of working or processing something. So, but it can be a new technology, it can be a new tool that you're resisting. Like I resist those new versions, as I said, on my iPhone or my Mac, and I really will probably whisper a couple of complaints first. That's my first reaction, and then take a deep breath and understand that maybe it's for my best. And if it's not, anyway, I don't have much of a choice, and then you're going to have to learn how to use this new feature or this new technology. So this is what I wanted to bring in today, if there is any takeaway for you about adaptability, about enabling as a leader, about embracing as someone who has to receive change and to adapt to change, this is what I would say. One example I will leave you with and finish on that is in lines of productions where people work in a factory. And I have a few of these situations with managers managing people who work in a factory. There is those people who are older in age and have maybe more resistance to change than others. Why age would be a factor, I don't know. But it's more of the number of years these people have been working in these premises, in this kind of operations, and have been used to work in a certain way. And now there is a change of technology or machinery. That person is going to process something differently. And I remember two things when I coach managers that have to empower these people and enabling these people to adapt to change. One is the coaching style, not the directive style. And when expectations are shared with that person, is to more ask questions to that person about the kind of role that person would be interested in playing when we don't have a choice and we all have to align with a huge change agenda. How do you help that person who is resisting because that person has been used to do something for 20 years, for 15 years, the same exact way, with a process, with a routine that they don't want to change from? But it's not about, again, pitching. It's not about convincing them about the advantages or whatever. It's you can say something like, we all are at the same level. We all have to comply. By this date, we're going to have to be completely migrating to this new platform. There is no other way because the companies made that choice, made the investment, and this is where I work. What you do today, your routine, is going to be unnecessary, it's going to be useless because what you work on right now, the machinery you're working on, disappears from the face of your eyes and from the earth on January 1st of 2023. That's a little bit close, right? But just giving a deadline. When that person hears that, there is a reaction. Of course, it's a little bit abrupt, but that's the reality. How do I bring this person to this reality is exactly what a manager should do with compassion and empathy. That means you're respectful of that person's emotion, of that adaptability of that person. And if that person is 100% resistant, then it's really to take that person by the hand, or, and that's my last point, because most of the time it is what I recommend. I'm a coach. I'm not recommending as a prescription, but I see in the development of the conversation with my coachee that we get to a third party, to someone else who has a closer relationship with this person who resists change. And that's how I'm going to leverage it. I'm going to take that person who understood very well the change and ask that person to take the task of coaching this one, because they already have a relationship and they certainly have a relationship of trust. I still am the leader, I'm the manager. Maybe my direct report sees me in an angle that is not favorable for making such a jump from this use of this technology and now to going to the next. So my recommendation is definitely to see and explore who else in my team can have a better influence or leverage that person to get closer, use this trust to offer, because this is all we do. We offer our help, we offer our support, our training to help that person to adapt to that new technology. And also give that person the comfort level that they need. If it's time, give them more time. If it's friendship, that I'm going to be next to you, I'm going to watch you, I'm going to ask you to shadow me. All this time that is needed, all this space of trust that is needed to make it available to that person. Once that person sees that you care, once that person sees that it's doable, that people like me or even I would know that are not as smart as I am or something could do it so easily. Why not me? When the why not me comes in, I think we are right there. We can really get this done. The motivation starts to grow. So it's very human. It's to adapt, to tailor your management and your leadership and your influence to that very person's mind and to that mindset and to that emotional disposition of taking a change. So I hope this helped. I just think that was my example, because on the line of production in a factory with machinery and people who have a routine, I think it's a perfect example, because it's, you can really imagine it, you can visualize this. It has a tangible numbers of things that you can watch, you can put milestone, you can measure progress. All of that from the leadership standpoint is easier for you to manage, and you can really help that person to get to the next step and the next step. It's all baby steps if it has to be. And that person might need more resources than others. And then there will be two type of people: the manager who says, this is a high maintenance guy, he's always asking me questions, he's always consuming my time. It's worth it, it's always worth it to adapt and tailor your style of management. And if you think it's too much for you, to delegate it. And it's not only because of the too much for you that I'm asking to delegate or recommending you delegate, it's because there is someone in the team that can have a better impact than you to do that enabling, to do that work, that management work, that leadership work, so that the person feels more comfortable with the change. All right. I think I shared this experience with you, and please, if you have any question, if you have any experience to share, send them over to me. I can, give it the next time. I will not have the program on for the next 2 weeks, because we're going to be out for the holidays, but we're going to be back in the week of the 2nd, I think, of January. And that's why I'm going to wish everybody a happy holiday season, and that you do and make great determination for this upcoming year, that it should be for everybody a year of development, of opportunities, and that you're not getting too much influenced by the news and by the noise that we have around us that is pretty toxic and negative, and that you do that on your own in terms of looking at that next year with your own perspective, and that it's a positive one. That's what my wish is for you all. Happy New Year, happy holiday season. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.